Welcome to Examplanet services. My name is Stephen Adebayo. This is the GR Reading Comprehension class. The GR Reading Comprehension tests your ability to read and understand a passage of text. The passages mirrors the kind of passages that you will come across in graduate school. GR Reading Comprehension is the most essential aspect of GRE verbal reasoning section because it takes up to half of all the verbal reasoning questions on the exam. Some students find the passages tough because the contents somewhat are not familiar, they are strange, and as such, they find it to be so demanding. Because of this, you will see it is very essential for you to devote enough time in order to read your reading comprehension passages and practice questions underneath it. The total number of reading comprehension questions in a verbal section is 10. Apparently, you know that there are 2 sections, so altogether there are 20 questions. Okay, so with this in your mind, you have to plan for the number of questions vis-a-vis the time allotted for the entire section. The reading comprehension passages vary in length. We have the short passage that contains 1 to 2 paragraphs. And we have the long passage that has the minimum of 3 paragraphs and maximum 5 paragraphs. We are going to see an example of a short passage. Alright, you can see this is just a paragraph, so it qualifies as a short passage. We have long passage. You will see you have 3 paragraphs here, and that makes it a long passage. Alright, let's talk about the sources of GR reading comprehension passage. We have academic and non-academic sources majorly. So other sources include books, biographies, magazines, textbooks, literature, and other scholarly journals. Let's examine the GRE topics. So GRE reading comprehension passages can have a wide variety of topics. The topics of GRE passages range from natural science, social science, arts, humanities, politics, and also everyday life issues. They may vary in complexities depending on your level of exposure to general topics of discourse. Apparently, we have different difficulty index of this question, and that depends on how vast or how familiar the general topic of discourse is with you. And a healthy study appetite and keeping abreast of happenings will be a kind of advantage to you, since familiar subjects tends to keep your attention without being bored out of concentration. So what I'm trying to say is that if you are familiar with the field of discourse or the topic in your passage, somehow you will not be bored. You will flow with it. You enjoy it. And that cannot be said of an unfamiliar passage. Alright, so let's look at question formats on GRE reading comprehension. We have multiple choice questions. Okay, so we have different types of it. The first one is where you select one answer choice. Out of the 5 answer choices given to you, you will pick one correct answer. The second one, you will select one or more answer choices. In this kind of question, there are 3 answer choices and you have to pick 1, 2, or all 3 answer choices. You have to note that 1, 2, or all the 3 answer choices may be correct. So in this case, you have to analyze each of the sentences separately. So we also have select in passage. This question requires you to click on the sentence in the passage that meets a particular description. An example of each of the question formats above will be presented in the following slides. Alright, on your screen now, you have an archetypal of multiple choice question where you select one answer choice. In this slide now, you have a question, and after it, you have 5 answer choices, and there is a correct answer here. In the latter part of this explanation, we'll provide answer to these questions. So this is an example of a multiple choice question where you select one or more answer choices. Sometimes we'll call it select all that apply. Okay? Now you see the instruction. You have to consider each of the 3 choices separately and select all that apply. You can see you have just 3 answer choices, and you are to select one if one is just the correct answer. You select 2 if 2 are relevant. You select 3 if all the 3 applies in the passage. Alright, so here we have the question type on select in passage. Select the sentences that distinguishes 2 ways of integrating rock and classical music. You have to select the sentence in the paragraph that distinguishes 2 ways of integrating rock and classical music. So let's quickly look at components of a passage. Some passages berate an outdated theory or hypothesis and introduce a new one. So what am I trying to say here? Some passages condemns an outdated theory or hypothesis. It introduces another one. Some other passages highlight a problem and then discuss solution or solutions. GRE passages have other components that are different from the examples above. But thinking of the component examples above can give you an idea about what to expect. Let's quickly look at the building blocks of a passage. The point. This is the main idea of the passage. It is the claim or the idea that the author is passing across. So it's very important that you identify the point in the passage. Then, the background is any piece of information that helps you to understand the point. That's the background, okay? And now you also need to know if it supports or opposes something. So that calls for support or opposition. This is any other information that the author gives to support or oppose the main point. Of course, you also need to understand implications. These are the consequences or effects of the main point. Understanding these building blocks will help you to understand the passage. We are going to look at question types and their strategies. We look at main idea question. This question requires you to identify the primary purpose and the main point of a passage. The question pointers include a phrase like, in the passage, the author is primarily concerned with A, B, C, D. Which of the following would be the most appropriate title for the given passage? Alright, so let's quickly discuss the strategy. The major strategy is to identify the main idea. You need to know that early in the passage, what is the claim, what is the point that the rest of this passage will support, oppose, or support and oppose. Let's take a look at an example of a passage with a main idea question type in the next slide. You can take some minutes to read through this passage. Alright, so the question and the options here. The question is, the author of the passage is primarily concerned with A, discussing different approaches biologists have taken to testing theories about the distribution of plants in WUSE. Discussing different theories about the transport of plant seed to WUSE. Discussing the extent to which air currents are responsible for dispersal of plant seeds to WUSE. Resolving a dispute about the adaptability of plant seed to bird transport. Resolving a dispute about the ability of birds to carry plant seed long distances. Alright, if you look at the passage carefully, you agree with me that the author of the passage is not primarily concerned with discussing different approaches biologists have taken to testing theories about the distribution of plants in WUSE. Option C is also wrong because the author has not been primarily concerned about discussing the extent to which air currents are responsible for dispersal of plant seeds to WUSE. He is also not primarily concerned about resolving a dispute about the adaptability of plant seeds to bird transport. And finally, he is also not concerned with resolving a dispute about the ability of birds to carry plant seeds long distances, but is primarily concerned with discussing different theories about the transport of plant seeds to WUSE. Obviously, the correct answer to the question is option B. The author of the passage is primarily concerned with discussing different theories about the transport of plant seeds to WUSE. So let's discuss specific detailed question. Look at an example of a question. The passage addresses which of the following issues related to glass use of popular element in its classical composition. So let's see the passage. You can take some time to read this passage. So, I believe you have read the passage. Let's look at the question. The passage addresses which of the following issues related to glass use of popular element in its classical composition. Okay, looking at this question, the passage addresses which of the following issues related to glass use of popular element in its classical composition. You agree with me that the passage do not address how it is regarded by listeners who prefer rock to classic. It has not also addressed how it has affected the commercial success of glass music. Not even to talk about whether it has contributed to a revival of interest among other composers in using popular elements in their composition. Option D is also not the answer choice that is correct, because the passage has not discussed whether it has had a detrimental effect on glass reputation as a composer of classical music. But one thing it has done is it has addressed whether it has caused certain of glass work to be derivative in quality, and that you can see in the passage. Looking at the second paragraph, Glass based 2 symphonies of music by rock musicians David Bowie and Brian Eno, but the symphony's sound is distinctively its popular element. That answers the question. So let's look at the important strategy to use here is to make use of the keyword or keywords in the question to quickly locate the relevant part of the passage in order to read and answer the question. It's very important for you to identify the keyword in the question and you scan for where that is extremely fast rate. Okay, so we are on purpose question. So the purpose question asks you to identify the reason the author mentioned a word, a phrase, a clause in the passage. Okay, so the question pointer could be the author mentions the result of flotation experiment on plant seed, most probably in order to, okay, so you have to give us the purpose for mentioning it, the purpose for referring to it. So what is this strategy? The strategy to use in order to answer this correctly is to find the sentence before the sentence that contain the word, phrase, or clause that you are referred, or you have to look at the sentence after the relevant sentence, that is the sentence that contains the word, phrase, clause that you're looking at, or you have to look carefully at the relevant sentence itself. So it is just like that. What I'm trying to say apparently is that you need to read up to 3 sentences before and after the relevant sentence, so that will help you a lot through. You could take some time to look at this passage and you look at the question in the next slide. Alright, so you can see the question on your screen. The question says, the author mentions the result of flotation experiments on plant seed, most probably in order to do what? So you look at the passage now. Okay, alright. You agree with me that flotation experiments are actually mentioned in the passage in order to show that some evidence negates doubts on the claim that ocean currents were the means by which seeds were transported to WUSE. So option A is not correct, option B is not correct, option C is not correct. Thus, answer choice D is the answer key, that is to challenge the claim that ocean currents are responsible for the transport of plant seeds to WUSE. Alright, so you can trace that through in the passage. So you have the passage on your screen. In the next slide, we'll discuss inference question. Okay, the inference question simply asks you to draw a conclusion based on information in the passage. The inference question asks you to extrapolate an idea that is not actually spelt from what is spelt. Okay, that is, from what is given to you, you are to deduce what is not given to you. So we have examples, or the question could come like, it can be inferred from the passage that A, B, C, D, or which of the following can be inferred about the passage. Okay, so you can look at your screen now and you see question like, it can be inferred from the passage that manufacturing and agricultural sector in the United States following the Second World War differed in which of the following aspects. Maybe they have not really spelled it, but then if you look at the characteristics discussed for the manufacturing sector, and you also look at what is said of agricultural sector, you're going to extrapolate what the difference between these two sectors are, or what the difference is. Which of the following can be inferred about the passage? Okay, the strategy is simple. Rephrase or interpret the relevant part of the passage. You are to rephrase it, or you just interpret it, the relevant part. The question we have here is about inference question. You can take some time to read the passage. Okay, we have to look at it, the question now. It can be inferred from the passage the manufacturing and agricultural sectors in the United States following the Second World War differed in which of the following respect. Okay, so on your screen now, you can take some time to look at the passage again, okay? But then it's really very important for you to analyze very carefully. All right, so option here is not the answer because the rate of expansion in each sector is not why they differ. Okay, we also have the fact that the trend in the wages of men employed in each sector is not why they differ. Actually, the attitude of popular media towards the employment of women in each sector is actually not why they differ. Okay, the extent to which women in each sector were satisfied with their job is not why they differ. The correct answer is option B. The percentage of employees in each sector who were men is actually why they differ. So the next question type we're going to discuss is vocabulary in context. This asks you to provide a synonyms that can replace a word in a given context. Okay, the strategy is to ensure that you read the context of the given word in the passage. You should be careful to observe the function of that word in the sentence it appears. Alright, so what am I trying to say? It is very important to look at the contextual relevance of the word that you want to substitute the word in your question for. It's really very important, and mind you, of course, the answer choices will be the same part of speech, but identifying the part of speech of the word is also very important. So the question to come like, in the context in which it appears, coinages most nearly means, or in the context in which it appears, inflation in line so most nearly means something. So in the next slide, we're going to see a passage. You have to read through carefully and identify the line given to you in the question, and also identify where the word is located. You should identify the word group the word belongs, and look at the answer choices carefully to see which one will correctly replace it. That is the one that means the same. On this right hand side of your screen, you see your passage in this slide. Okay, so you can start your reading from line 2 in paragraph 2. You can start from, they also avail themselves of other forms of expression with metaphorical meaning, some probably original, some derived from total coinages. Okay, so in that context, adaptations will not go, idiosyncrasies will not go, pronunciations will not go, currencies will not go. So what will be the answer key? His creations. Just as I told you earlier, you discover that all the answer choices are the same part of speech, that is, they belong in the same word group. Alright, so I need to expose you to answer choices you need to eliminate. Answer choices that contain extreme words like whole, never, every, only, and answer choices that are out of scope or context. You should not ever choose any answer choice like that. You have to be very careful not to apply your knowledge of the subject topic into the passage by the way of filling up perceived loopholes, as this may change course. You need to see what the passage has not mentioned. Be as emotionally and personally detach from the passage as possible. Okay, this is just to let you know that the overall passage doesn't need you to attach emotions or any kind of personal thing, because that's just the best way to detach yourself from what you are saying. It's a trap, so don't fall for it. Thank you for watching.